И мы, и американская сторона едины в том, что это была очень важная встреча, которая подтвердила высокий уровень советско-американских отношений, который позволяет выходить на обсуждение кардинальных вопросов нынешнего международного положения, искать пути улучшения международных отношений. Эта встреча отличалась хорошей атмосферой, открытостью, доверием, стремлением понять лучше позиции друг друга. И когда меня вчера попросили одним словом охарактеризовать эту встречу, суть этой встречи, ее главный лейтмотив, то я сказал, что я бы назвал одно слово – преемственность. Думаю, что вчерашние беседы и сегодняшние беседы по телефону, они касались и проблем дальнейшего нашего сотрудничества, создают у нас уверенность и у американской, и у советской сторон, что наши отношения будут укрепляться, расширяться на базе сотрудничества, уважения, интересов и с учетом нашей ответственности перед другими народами.
Yesterday, I had a meeting with President Reagan and Vice President, President-elect George Bush, and members of the current and future U.S. administration. We and the American side share the view that this was a very important meeting which has confirmed the high level of Soviet-American relations, which makes it possible to discuss very important questions affecting relations between our countries and problems of improving international relations. This was a good meeting held in a very good atmosphere, an open and trustful atmosphere. We believe that it was characterized by a readiness to understand the positions of each other. And yesterday, when I was asked to describe in one word the essence and the main motive of that meeting, I said that that word was continuity. So that meeting yesterday and the telephone conversations that we had today, when we also briefly addressed our future cooperation, make us confident, make the Soviet Union and the United States confident that our relations will expand and improve on the basis of cooperation, on the basis of mutual respect for each other's interests, and also taking into account our responsibilities to our nations and to the world.
Я бы чувствовал себя плохо, если бы я уехал и не обратился со словами искренней благодарности к нью-йоркцам, жителям Нью-Йорка, за гостеприимство, которое они оказали нам, и за выраженные чувства дружбы в эти дни. Нас это глубоко тронуло. Мы выражаем всем нью-йоркцам сердечную признательность за все это. Мы это очень высоко ценим. Мы думаем, что, может быть, это одно из самых существенных событий одного дня пребывания на американской земле. Мы видим, как нарастает взаимное уважение, расположение, желание сотрудничать и со стороны советского народа, и со стороны американцев.
I think I would be remiss in my duty if I went home without saying how much we are grateful to New Yorkers for the hospitality and feelings of friendship that they have been expressing over these days. So to all New Yorkers, our very warm gratitude. We value that very much. We believe that this may have been one of the most important things that happened on this day of our stay in America. That shows increased and increasing respect and friendliness and willingness to cooperate on the part both of the Soviet people and the American people.
Впереди трудный путь, но мы уезжаем с чувством уверенности, что мы будем идти по этому пути дальше, развивая, укрепляя то, что уже мы сегодня имеем. Если мы будем действовать так, как мы действуем в последнее время, а может быть и еще что-то прибавим, то, мне кажется, мы можем надеяться на хорошие перспективы в наших отношениях, а это будет иметь и огромное значение для всего мира, для всех народов.
The road ahead will be tough, but we will go ahead and we will, I believe, be building on what has been achieved if we act as we have been acting and also maybe add something new. I think that would open up good prospects for our two peoples and will be extremely important for the world as well.
До свидания. Благодарю вас.
Goodbye and thank you.
Soviet President Mikhail Gorbachev, who plainly has no fear of Western microphones, with his farewell statement at Kennedy Airport today as he boards the Soviet jetliner that you see in the background that will carry him back to Moscow, and then we believe almost directly he'll go to Soviet Armenia.
I am so grateful that I have the opportunity to meet with you here.
We don't know who this is for sure.
And I express our great sorrow for this tragedy in your country. But I do appreciate very much your efforts for peace throughout the world.
Но хотел бы сказать, как я ценю ваши усилия во имя мира во всем мире.
When we were able to go to the moon, we did that for peace for all mankind.
Когда мы были на Луне, то были там в интересах мира для всего человечества.
When we returned to the Earth, we were awarded the United Nations Peace Medal.
Когда мы вернулись на Землю, нам была вручена медаль мира ООН.
And as you know, Mr. President, I've just been in your country for the last 2 weeks.
Может быть, вы знаете, что совсем недавно я посетил вашу страну, буквально последние 2 недели.
I wanted to meet you there, but it did not work out.
Я хотел встретиться с вами там, не получилось.
I'm glad that you were able to come to our country so that I could meet you and present you with the flag of the Soviet Union that we carried to the moon.
Я рад, что вы побывали у нас в стране, и это дает мне возможность встретиться с вами и вручить вам этот советский флаг, который побывал на Луне.
And this is the flag of the Soviet Union that we carried to the moon. We carried it for you and for the people of the Soviet Union. And we visited the moon in peace for all mankind. This is merely the certification of this flag signed by the 3 crew members of our flight. And we all appreciate your great leadership for peace.
Thank you.
And also, Mr. President, I wish to present you this a beautiful book.
Передаю вам эту прекрасную книгу.
And as you know, it was jointly published by the Soviet Union and the United States.
Называется «Планета. Наш дом».
I think you'll find it inspirational reading material for your flight back home. And I appreciate it, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Your time.
Well, that was an unexpected development. Former astronaut James Irwin, who was one of the crewmen on a flight to the moon, carried a Soviet flag with him and had hoped to present it to Mikhail Gorbachev, as you heard him describe it, but in the interest of world peace, he wanted to make the presentation here today. We didn't know for a while just who that was or how he got there, but it was obviously arranged for the Soviet delegation. White-haired man on the right side of the screen, kind of in the middle of the crowd now, is Edward Shevardnadze, who's the Soviet foreign minister, made the dramatic announcement very early this morning that this trip would be cut short so that they could return. John Chancellor, we were just beginning to discuss what it was that Mikhail Gorbachev wanted to say to the American people before he left, and he went back to that word again, continuity, which has been kind of the watchword now of the new relations between the United States and the Soviet Union, that we will not blow hot and cold, I suppose is the best way to describe it. At least that is his hope.
Well, and he talked about making it, that meeting yesterday with Bush and the president, making it possible to improve international relations, that the meeting was open and trusting. I thought, Tom, one quite interesting thing he said was that he was very careful to praise the United Nations, to say we value the United Nations highly and that its value, in our view, will grow. Gorbachev wants a United Nations peacekeeping force in Afghanistan. He wants it badly. He made sure yesterday, and he made sure again today, that the UN was praised, and he's hitting his points today, even though he's off on a very sad errand.
He also said that we're both confident, talking about the two sides, that our relations will expand and improve with cooperation and mutual respect, which is another phrase that he has been using repeatedly, and frankly in the interest of the United States as well, to have a kind of eyeball-to-eyeball relationship, and so that we don't go through first a period of détente and then a period of coldness that marked the beginning of the relationship between the United States and the Soviet Union in the earliest part of the Reagan administration.
Well, and continuity also implies parity in certain things. We're a superpower, you're a superpower. Let's operate at eye level.
Man with the flat top hat on, and just ducked back out of the picture there, was the Anatoly Dobrinin, who was the longtime Soviet ambassador to this country, came on this trip. There had been some indication that he had lost favor because he had been voted out of the Politburo, I think. But he was here as an advisor.
I don't see how a general secretary can come to the United States without bringing Dobrinin with him. He's so experienced and so well liked in this country.
Mrs. Dobrinin not in the lamb's wool coat that she was wearing when she arrived 2 days ago, but now in another coat. One of her earlier appearances, I think it was in Geneva, she was seen wearing the same outfit 2 days in a row. That drew a lot of attention in this country. Yesterday, she changed her outfits between morning and afternoon.
Showed up in a new outfit for lunch.
Right.
Yeah.
This natural disaster in Armenia has had profound consequences, of course, not only for the people of Armenia, but for this political trip of Mikhail Gorbachev as well. He had, as we've been saying all morning, planned to go to Cuba tomorrow morning, where he has serious business to do with Fidel Castro, who does not appear to be a great student or an admirer of perestroika and glasnost. He's continuing the old Stalinist ways in his conduct of his communist regime on that island. And of course, Nicaragua would likely have been on their agenda as well, because Cuba is kind of the big brother, if you will, to the Sandinista regime. A good deal of the expertise and the training and the support for the infrastructure of Nicaragua comes through Cuba, doctors, medical training people, even supplies.
Castro's real estate is more important to the Russians than his politics at this moment.
That's right. And it costs them about $7 billion a year to maintain it. I'll say this for the Gorbachevs, they travel well. They arrived here on Tuesday. It's a long and difficult flight, about 10 hours altogether. We were told, had meetings on Tuesday night at the Soviet mission preparing for his speech yesterday before the General Assembly. He looked absolutely alert, commanding, delivered it without a hitch. Mrs. Gorbachev looked very fresh for all of her appearances yesterday. Then again, another long night last night, and now they're onto their airplane and off to Moscow and then on to Armenia. Now, it's fair to say, to point out that on that airplane, they don't sit in coach class, 3 to an aisle. There, no doubt, is the pretty comfortable
We have
quarters.
to assume that. I have these feelings about Aeroflot. I'm not sure. No, I know they're in comfortable quarters now. But he may have been up on the telephone all night to Moscow as well.
There were indications that was the case. Let's just go, well, the plane prepares to taxi. Let's go out to Golden, Colorado, to Bruce Presgrave, who is with the U.S. Geological Survey out there. He's the deputy director, as a matter of fact. Mr. Presgrave, tell us about the dimensions of that earthquake in Armenia and about the dimensions of the aftershocks as well. Have they been significant, and are they doing additional damage so far as we know?
Okay, the main shock measured 6.9 on the Richter scale, and 4 minutes after that earthquake, there was a magnitude 5.8 aftershock, which is a very strong aftershock. So far, that's the only aftershock that's been large enough for us to see here in the United States. But I suspect that that strong aftershock, coming so quickly as it did after the large one, may very well have contributed to the very substantial damage and casualties that apparently have occurred.
And that is an earthquake fault intent zone, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Although this appears to be the strongest earthquake in that immediate area this century, earthquakes have occurred throughout the years in this area. In fact, as early as 893 AD, there was an earthquake in Armenia which killed 20,000 people.
A lot of people who have a familiarity with Armenia see the Caucasus Mountains and some hilly areas and some rocky soil. Is it peculiarly suited for this kind of devastation? I mean, what happened in Mexico City, we could understand because that's a dry lake bed in effect, and the soil is not very stable there at all. But what about in that more mountainous region? Would this kind of an earthquake be expected to have this kind of damage?
Well, I think more than the soils, perhaps the building construction in that part of the world tends to increase the severity of a particular size earthquake. Most of the buildings in that part of the Soviet Union, also Turkey and Iran, are adobe or rock housing, and a small amount of shaking, or a relatively small amount of shaking, can create substantial devastation.
Briefly, Mr. Presgrave, what can you tell us about the probability of continuing aftershocks once you've had a shaker of this magnitude, 6.9, and then that immediate aftershock of what, 5.8?
I would say there's a good probability of having some continued aftershocks. It's really hard to say from one earthquake to another whether there will be a lot of aftershocks or not. Some earthquakes generate long series of aftershocks that may go on for weeks and months.
All right.
Other earthquakes shut off rather quickly. It's hard to say. We'll just have to watch.
Thank you very much. Bruce Presgrave, who is at Golden, Colorado with the U.S. Geological Survey. Briefly now, let's go to Moscow, where NBC's Peter Kent is up in rotation with the satellite there. Peter, what's the late word? Have you seen, have you seen the late television, or rather the main television broadcast yet?
No, that comes up in just about 10 minutes, Tom. It's an hour-long broadcast which will probably be extended tonight. There will be coverage, of course, of the ceremony that's going on at JFK right now. It is not being broadcast live tonight. But then we hope to see some more pictures, some fresh pictures, and get some fresh information on the devastation in Soviet Armenia. The word that we have is that the devastation is, in fact, as bad as different spokesmen have generally described today, but there is still no confirmation of the exact death toll.
Peter, are they being fairly free with the information there, or are you getting it all from Izvestia and TASS and the various news agencies, or are they setting up a rotation of regular briefings for the Western correspondents who have such an active interest in this story?
Not at all. The Foreign Ministry did hold a briefing this afternoon, but gave really very little more information than Soviet Foreign Minister Shevardnadze did last night at his midnight briefing. As I said, the folks that handled the foreign press are with Mr. Gorbachev, and we have not been allowed. Our request to enter the area and to cover it ourselves has so far not been allowed. We would hope that when Mr. Gorbachev and his party arrives back, that we, as well as the Soviet press, will be allowed freer access without interfering, of course, with the rescue and recovery operation, but that we will be able to tell this story. And there have been requests from people like the Soviet human rights activist Andrei Sakharov to let other foreigners in, foreigners who could help with the relief work that will have to go on for many weeks in that part of the Soviet Union.
Thank you very much, Peter Kent. Bob Bazell is standing by in Burbank now. Bob?
Tom, we have a rather extraordinary thing. Dr. Najarian, as we're talking now, is on the telephone. You can't see the telephone. We have a telephone connection with a journalist in Armenia who I believe speaks some English. Could you ask her to tell us what's happening in English?
Shake, would you talk to us in English now, please? Tell us what happened to Spidak.
Let them ask me what they want.
Tell us about the damage.
Hello?
Tell us about the damage. About the damage to Leninagan and Spidak.
Leninagan, Spidak, Kirovakan, Stepanavan.
How many casualties? How many casualties?
The North Armenian part, all the North.
How many dead?
I think perhaps Dr. Najarian, it would be best if you translated. Why don't I...
They are digging and bringing up now. Everything is under the ruins.
Okay. Shake,
I don't know how much dead we have, but about, they say now, about 50,000 already.
Okay. She says the city of Spidak, which had a population of 50,000, is completely demolished and everybody there has been killed.
This part, Leninagan, Kirovakan, had 450,000 inhabitants.
The city of Leninagan, 120 large buildings have collapsed, and the big, large government hospital has collapsed with the patient in there. And they have transported many of the wounded to Yerevan. And they have already given, within 18 hours, he said, people had given 50 tons of blood to be transfused. And she says, in spite of the calamity that we have in Armenia, the Azeri Turks in Girovabad, they are still continuing to massacre and to persecute the Armenians and drive them out as refugees.
Can she tell us about the condition of the survivors who are in these areas? She said there's a city with no survivors whatsoever?
Correct. The city of 50,000 has been completely demolished.
Now tell us more about other cities in the area that she knows about.
Yeah.
What has she seen with her own eyes?
Shake?
Yes?
What have you seen with your own eyes?
What?
What have you seen? Kuachkerovet inch desazestun. Tun inch desar.
Chiles fum gidek.
She can't hear us. Tun inch desar.
Kuachkerovet inch desar?
Ayo.
Yes, chem katsats, tăgas katsats, ekashkhati gorhon. My son is there now because all the university students are there in Leninakan, Girovakan. They are digging and bringing out the dead and helping the medical personage. So I haven't seen, but our television every now and then is showing. And we are seeing only ruins and ruins and ruins and ruins.
How extensive is the damage?
Nothing is left. I know Leninakan, it was a beautiful city. Now nothing is left. Even the churches are ruined.
Even the churches are.
Now, which city is this that she said?
Shake, this is Spidag and Leninagan.
Spidag is nothing left. Spitak is under the ruins.
Spitak has nothing left. Everything is...
How does she know that, Bob?
Kirovakan is half. Kirovakan is damaged.
Now, how does she know this?
How do you know this? Inch peski des.
Huh?
Inch peski des.
Kirovakan had about 150,000 inhabitants. I don't know how many are left now because we don't know now the numbers because we haven't brought yet out to death.
Okay. How do you know about the numbers, the veracity of the numbers?
The number, how many are dead?
Yes. How do you know about the numbers? Who gives you the figures?
50,000 are dead now for sure. The others are in very bad condition, damaged, broke.
Okay, please ask her what she has seen again with her own eyes.
Շակետուն աչքերովդ ինչ տեսար։
Իմ աչքերովը։
Վիրավորները տեսար, որ Հայաստան Երևան բերին։
Այո, Էրեբունի հիվանդանոցը, the hospital, Էրեբունի has, and all the other hospitals, they have brought out all the other persons, the sick, and all these persons, հիվանդները, brought from Leninakan, Kirovakan, are now in the hospitals.
Now they have, she has seen some of the wounded who have been transported from Leninakan to
She's seen 200 to the hospital in her area. Is there...
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much. We're going to keep this line open, but...
Many had very, very strict shocks.
So what we're having here, Tom, is reports of extensive damage. Obviously, we're having trouble with translations and telephone lines, but there seems to be no question that this, again, as we've been saying all morning, is one of the most extensive and damaging earthquakes of this century and possibly for much longer than that. Tom?
Thank you very much, Dr. Najarian and Bob Bazell. That town, Spitak, that the Shaki, the journalist, was saying was completely leveled. We last had an estimate of about 12,000 people living there all together. There was also a report earlier today that Leninakan, which is the largest city in that area, about 200,000 people. A member of the Politburo told some American officials today before he left for Moscow that it was 75% destroyed. Hospitals, schools, apartments, workplace. So the death toll could be exceptional indeed. Estimates now running at about 50,000. Let's go to Kennedy Airport now, where we'll see the taxiing out and takeoff of the Ilyushin jet that is carrying Mikhail Gorbachev and his official party back to Moscow as they cut short this trip to the United States, to Latin America, and to Great Britain. John Chancellor is here with me now. I'm still intrigued by how Gorbachev will reach out to the world during the course of this disaster. Obviously, if this kind of thing happened in the United States with all of the resources that we have available to us here, we would welcome help from other places.
I think you'll see more than just the President of the United States flying over the counties that have been declared disaster areas. I think you'll see him on the ground, in the rubble, helping and being very vigorous. That's his whole style. And it's probably a pretty good thing for the Soviet Union to have a leader who'll get in there and mix it up.
John Cochran at the airport, Bob Abernethy at the airport. Was there anything more than what we saw in that farewell ceremony?
No, I just noticed the somber mood. You know, this was supposed to be sort of the easygoing day, not light on the diplomacy. The Gorbachev's going around New York, and there was a festive atmosphere I think New Yorkers were preparing for. You know, they say if you can make it here, you can make it anywhere. And Mikhail Gorbachev was making it in New York, and now it's been cut short by tragedy back home.
But he did make it. He did make it. I mean, his speech, the reaction to it, and the conversation with the president and with Mr. Bush. I mean, everything that he did yesterday seemed to me to be a great success, very well received here and elsewhere. There was one thing that he said in his final remarks here. There was a hint that there was not just a matter of condolences in the telephone conversation with the president and with Mr. Bush, but there was also discussion of what next in their relationship, and he mentioned that very positively.
You know, Tom, the White House scheduled this press conference by President Reagan largely because Mikhail Gorbachev was in the country. It was a way of getting the public relations initiative back on the U.S. side. Now, of course, it's all changed, and I wonder if at the White House they're thinking, maybe this gamesmanship, we played it a little wrong. It's an unnecessary press conference, I would imagine, from President Reagan's standpoint now.
Well, at the same time, the president does have the opportunity to have his farewell news conference that he had planned to give, whether or not he had a meeting with Mikhail Gorbachev, and it will be an opportunity for him to express his condolences and his personal solidarity in terms of the sympathy that he feels for what has happened in Armenia. Mickey Gertis is a man who works for us in Israel, and he monitors a lot of radio traffic around the world. He says that Russian ham operators are saying that the television pictures are nothing compared to the real damage on the ground in Armenia. Most places that were over 3 stories are no longer standing in Armenia. The death toll now at 50,000, Mikhail Gorbachev on his way home. NBC News will have periodic updates all day long on this enormous devastation in that part of the Soviet Union. For now, I'm Tom Brokaw in New York. We'll see you later.
This has been an NBC News special report.